Hey guys! So in this second video about triggers, we're going to look at more advanced usage. And what we're going to do is, well, we're basically going to build our own little task system where we have triggers that complete tasks and we have a task manager that ends the game once all tasks have been completed. Now, that's not going to give us tasks that actually show up in the UI or anything. There is a proper task system in Arma Reforger, and we're going to look at that in the next video. So if that's all you want, you can skip this one, but I think it's still important to take a look at how triggers and everything works in the first place. Now, I'm just done creating all of this, and it took me way too long. And I'm recording this for a second time because there was something quite unexpected that hit me. Anyways, I'm first going to show you what this is going to look like once we're done with it. Alright, so I'm just going to hop into Zeus real quick. We're going to get rid of these guys. Get rid of these guys, teleport here. And you already know this part from the last video. There. And you can now see we got a little, in the log console, a little message saying task with compound clear trigger is complete true and car destroyed trigger is complete false. And you also saw we got the on-screen overlay, but the game isn't ending yet. So let's destroy a car. And because our car destroying abilities are quite limited, I'm gonna destroy one of them with Zeus, which doesn't do much yet. And then the other one, well, we can waste a ton of ammo on it. Run! Okay, this could take a while, so let's instead hop in and put it down to like 6% or something. Oops. The burst mode really works well, doesn't it? Sometimes one bullet, sometimes two. Okay, at least it's burning now. How much HP does it have? 3. Okay, it's gonna explode any second now. There we go. And there we go. All cars destroyed. Ending game. All tasks completed. And there we go. US Army has won. Now I'm seeing a little thing here right now. This keeps repeating. That's not good. But I'm gonna fix that little issue there. But you can see that's what we're gonna make basically. We're gonna have this little task system set up for us. So first of all, I placed down 2 cars here, right? So you can just search for UAZ and place that down. And I gave them names. So you have UAZ1 and UAZ2 here. And first of all, okay, so I'm going to show you the way that I wanted to do it and explain why I wanted to do it that way. And then I'm going to show you why it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So the way I wanted to do this is I would have created an entity that we give an array of car names. We then find those and get their scripted damage manager components. The scripted damage manager component has a get on damage state changed script invoker. Now if we just go to this class, you can see that it has this on damage state changed and it invokes the script invoker. And damage state has, for example, undamaged and destroyed. So that's pretty much exactly what we want. It tells us when an object went from alive to being destroyed. And if you check out, for example, the character damage manager component, that's going to work. On damage state changed, it calls the super function, which I don't think we can go there, unfortunately. But that's this one. So it comes down to invoking. So if you wanted to make a trigger where characters die, you could make it that way. Unfortunately, if we check the vehicle damage manager component, let's search on damage state changed. It also overrides it, but it doesn't do a super call. I call this a bug. I think they forgot it. I think it's supposed to be there, and they forgot to do the super call. So maybe this gets fixed in a later version, but right now we can't do it that way. Why we're doing it this way and not through a normal trigger is then because we don't have to query every second if the car is dead. We just wait for the car to tell us that it died. Anyways, this doesn't work because the vehicle overrides it and forgets the super call, so we're not doing it this way. Instead, we are gonna call it just every second, and yeah, we basically build ourselves a trigger. Now, you could say, okay, so instead of building ourselves a trigger, why don't we just use a trigger? We have this SCR based trigger entity. We can tell it to query every second, and you said if you don't give it a shape, it's just gonna call on activate every now and then. That's right, and we can override on activate, that's no problem. The problem is, how do you tell it that you want to have UAZ 1 and UAZ 2 destroyed? So you could hardcode that in the script. That's one possibility. But the way I wanted to do it is that we have a component or an entity that you can give names. So you can say, these are all the cars that need to be destroyed. Because I wanted to show you how you can use this attributes flag to make this stuff show up. And you cannot make this stuff show up if you're using a script here. This has to be in the entity or in the component. It can't be in a script. It's not going to allow you to use attributes like that. But because it is much simpler, we are going to now just create a trigger here, and we're going to call it cars destroyed trigger. And again, I'm going to give it periodic queries with 1 second update. And I'm going to say every query we want to activate. Now on the script, I'm going to override on activate. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the cars. So let's say or let's call it UAZ1 is going to be get game, get world, find entity by name, UAZ1. And UAZ2. So now we have the UAZs. And so now we need to get their health. We want to check if they're dead or not. So we can do UAZ1, find component, and we can just get the damage manager component, which we need to cast because find component returns managed. So we just say damage manager component cast. And we're going to do this for both UAZs. So UAZ 1 damage and UAZ 2 damage. And now what we're going to do is if UAZ 1 damage get health is smaller or equal to 0, and UAZ 2 damage get health is small or equal to 0, then we want to somehow tell our game that this task is completed. So how could we do this? We could do this by finding our task manager that we're going to create in a moment with find entity by name and then setting a variable on it or something. That could work. Or what we could do is we could just have a script invoker here, you know, and then say invoke, and someone else can register the callback they want here. That doesn't work, unfortunately, because this cars destroy trigger class, it's like embedded in the mission. It's not compiled like at the same time as all the other scripts, so you can't access this from any other entity or component. So this is not something we can do. The task manager we have is going to have to access every task that's supposed to be executed, and it's going to have to get the entity, cast to it, get the script invoker, and then from there it can subscribe to callbacks. Now, this can't work if we have different classes. So here we have like a base trigger entity, and here we're going to have like a car destroy trigger entity maybe, or something else. So that's all not really going to work together. So what I thought of instead is, let's create a component that we can add here that its only job is to have the script invoker, and then we can get any entity we want and say, find me the script invoker component, and then I want to subscribe to that. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to head back to the workbench, and to create our component, what you'll have to make sure is that there is a scripts game components folder. This folder needs to exist. If it doesn't, we're going to have a problem in a second. Also, if you want to create entities, there needs to be game scripts game entities folder. And this is because the way we're going to create the script, we're going to go to the script editor, go to plugins, and hit script wizard. We want to create an entity. No, we want to create a component. And if you try to create a component here and you do not have this script game components folder created, it will give you an error. The next important thing is down here on script add-on, you want to come down and change Arma Reforger to your project name, in my case tutorial project, but make sure that you keep the $sign and the colon. And then under script name, we're going to call this, we're going to call it task script invoker component. And then we get this nice thing. Right. So first of all, what I want to do is we don't really need to have init nor frame here. So basically, frame says it's going to have a callback every frame. Init says it's going to call the on init function. We don't really want any of that. So really, we don't even need this set on event mask. Set event mask. Really, we don't need any of this. Just get rid of it. We don't even really need the constructor and stuff, so just make it completely empty. And now what we're going to put here is a script invoker. Oh, actually, this needs to be ref because it's a pointer. Ref script invoker task finished, for example, is new script invoker. And we're gonna have, this is gonna be protected, meaning no one else can access it, but if someone comes along and overwrites task script invoker component, they can access it still, but no one from outside can. And then we're gonna have a function returning script invoker get task finished, or maybe it's better to call it get on task finished. On task finished. And we're just going to return this here. Right, that's all this component is going to do. It's just going to have the script invoker and hold it for us. There might already be a component like that. I actually don't know. And now if we try to add this component to our task cars destroyed trigger, you won't find it here. You can still see that there. That was my last attempt before recording. So if you don't see it, what you can do is just hit Shift R to recompile the game scripts. And we made, there's an error somewhere. So we go back to the script editor. I'm going to hit F7 to compile the scripts. And it's going to tell me exactly where the issue is. All right, so I just cleared up all the stuff I had left over from before recording. Yes, we're going to save. And we're loading the game scripts now. And once that is done, you should be able to see your component. All right, it's finally done reloading. So we go to a trigger and we're going to add component. And we find the task script invoker component. Great. So now what we can do in our script here, when these both are destroyed, what we can do is find component, task script invoker component, and again we'll have to cast that. And when we have it, oh come on, save it. Have to recompile for it to realize there's a variable there. Get on task finished, invoke. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the trigger's name here so we can know which task was completed. Just do that by get name. And then, because now we're done with this trigger, it shouldn't be running anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call deactivate. Now we're going to do something similar for the clear area trigger. We're going to add the same component. And we're going to go to our onActivate script. And you can see I already changed it. Unfortunately, I couldn't undo it all the way. But we had some stuff here with ending the game. And now what we're going to do is, well, essentially the same that we just did with the other one. We're going to find component, task, what do we call it? Script invoker component. Oops. Like that. Save it and wait for it to reload. Get on task finished, invoke, get name. All right. So once the compound gets cleared, we're also gonna activate it. And we don't actually have to disable it because this one, we said activate only on, oh, we actually said all changes. I think first change should be good enough. Anyways, so let's just do deactivate here as well, because why not? All right, and that's our trigger setup. Now we just need a central entity to check if both of them are actually cleared. Do that. We're gonna make sure we have scripts game entities folder. We can go to script editor, script wizard, want to create an entity, and I'm going to call this simple task manager. Also, by the way, it's probably a good idea to give your classes prefixes so they don't collide with other classes from other mods potentially. All right. So what we want to do here, first of all, we don't want to do anything per frame. So I'm going to remove this frame mask and the eOnFrame method. You don't need to do that. Next up, first of all, I can't really explain to you why we have the entity and we have this entity class. We can put prefab properties here, so maybe that's useful, but I'm just gonna stay down in this one. Now what we want to do is we're gonna have an array of trigger names that we want to check if they are completed. So we're gonna have an array of strings that we're gonna call task names. And this needs to be ref. And we want this to be, we want to be able to set this from the workbench. We don't want to hard code it. We want to be able to go in here and like you can type in stuff here, like the owner faction key. We want to be able to type in which tasks we want to finish. So I'm going to give this just the attribute annotation. If you control click on attribute, you can find the attribute function here, and you can see it has a default value, it has a UI widget to use. We don't really want to deal with that. We have a description that might be helpful. So name of tasks to be completed. Names of tasks to be completed. And then on eOnInit, what we're gonna do, first off, we're gonna get the world. And we're gonna check if we have the world, because eOnInit sometimes also runs within Workbench, but if it does, there's no world. So sometimes you get a null pointer there. Don't really understand why this is happening. But if not world, we're just gonna return. And if you want, you can print error, no world found with log level error. Right. But the important bit is we're gonna have a for each loop. Over all the tasks in the task names array. And for each of them, what we're gonna do is we're gonna find the entity. So find entity by name. I'm gonna call it task name, not task. And that gives us the task. And now we're gonna check, first of all, did we find it? If we didn't find it, we're just gonna continue. So continue means the for each loop is gonna go to the next iteration. Return means we cancel the entire function, and continue just means what comes after it. So if we do more stuff here, that doesn't get executed, but it like jumps back to the for each loop. So we're just going to continue. And then if the entity was found, so you could also print here task with name was not found. Maybe with log level warning. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have this find component thing again. So I'm lazy right now. I'm just going to copy it. It's always such a long line of code. Important thing is don't use find component on its own. We want to use task.find component, because we're not finding the component on this task manager entity. We're trying to find the component on this task entity we just got by name. Of course, we have to check if it even has this component. So if we give it a trigger without that component, we can't deal with that. So again, we're going to continue. And if we have found it, then what I want to do is I want to make a map that goes from string to a boolean. Is task completed? And it's going to be an empty map. What we're going to do with this map is we found the task and we found that it has this invoker component. And if it does, we want to save if the task is completed or not. What we're going to do is task completed, insert task name and false. So by default, all the tasks are not completed. And then what we want to do is from the invoker component, get on task finished, we want to run a function. And that function doesn't exist yet, but we're going to create it. So this function is going to be on task finished, and it gets a task name. Because remember, when we invoke it, we pass get name to it. So we get a task name here, and we want to then insert on task finished. And you do not want to call it with the parentheses, you just want to pass the function name. So then when it runs, first we're going to check if is task completed contains the task name. This should always be the case, but if it's not, we just want to return. We don't want to bother with that. It's some task that for some reason shouldn't be in the map, but we still got anyways. Task finished. We're gonna say is task completed, and we're gonna set the task in the map task names to true. So this says, okay, now the task that we just completed, remember that it's true. And now we want to check if all the tasks are completed. So we kind of want a for each loop. Actually, let's just give it a try. I don't know if this is going to work. We could check the scripting reference. Let's check if we can have a for each loop. If we try to compile now and it gives us an error. We can't initialize it like this because it's map. We're going to just make new map string bool then. Let's hit F7. And apparently we can do a for each loop. That's nice. If for some reason you wanted to do it yourself, you can have stuff like begin, next. So this gives you an iterator. You can pass the iterator in here, and do a while loop over the iterator of the contents. But as long as we can use for each loops, we don't need any of that. Great. So for each task in here, we really just want to check if the value is true or not. So we're going to have a boolean all completed, and it's going to be true by default. And we're going to set it to all completed is all completed and value. So we're saying we assume all tasks are completed, and then we go through all of the tasks And if one of them isn't completed, all completed will become false. And then we can say if all completed, we want to end the game. And we'll need the end game function. And we already know what that looks like, so I'm just going to skip it here. So one thing we can do here, instead of getting faction by key hard-coded to the US, we could just have a second attribute. Faction key. Default value is going to be US, let's say. Or let's make it USSR, just so we have to change it. Faction that should win when all tasks are completed. And then we can use the faction key to get whatever faction someone wants. Hit F7 to check if this compiles. No. End game mode. There we are. We check all the tasks through their callbacks. If all of them are completed, we're gonna end the game. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's save. Let's go to create and search for our task manager. Oh, it's not there. Right, we have to not be in the text field, hit Shift R to reload game scripts. Hey, our tasks, our scripts reloaded. We're gonna search for task and we can find cap simple task manager. We're just gonna drag that in, and under faction key we see USSR, but we want it to be US. And we want 2 tasks to be completed. I'm just copying the names here. And these are cars destroyed trigger and compound cleared trigger. Right, we're gonna save. And we're gonna go in game and check it out. And I hope I didn't make any mistakes. Right. So we're just gonna spawn in here, and I'm just gonna hop into Zeus because it's quicker. Gonna kill these guys. Gonna kill some of those. And let's kill the last one. And we should see the same message as last time, that we cleared the compound. We did. And the difference this time should be that the game does not end. Yep, and in fact it does not end. Now, I'm gonna just go here and I'm gonna move one car so it doesn't destroy the other. I'm gonna explode it. So that's one of the 2 cars destroyed, but we wanted to have both of them destroyed. But we can check the log console, nothing happened in there yet. Everything seems to be working just fine. And I'm just gonna set this guy's HP to like a low number. And then if we throw a nade at it, should hopefully... enough. Alright, so it's burning now, that means it's taking damage over time. And as soon as it explodes, we should win. Let's just check real quick how many HP does it have. Oh, 0. Here we go. It exploded! And there we are. US Army won. Amazing. So there you are. This is how you can make multiple triggers interact. Or that's the way I would do it. But you might have just noticed we've really just been building our own little task system here. But even if you're not really building a task system, you just want to have different triggers interact with one another. Like, remember in Arma you had these, I think we did it with waypoints back then. You could give triggers and or waypoints and stuff like that. That's basically kind of what we're doing here. We just created an and trigger, basically, saying take this trigger and that trigger, and when both of them are completed, then create or then end the game and create a winning state. Right, so I think that's it for this video, which has probably been getting way too long. And in the next one, we're going to take a look at actually using proper tasks, because there are already quite a few. Like move task, there's even trigger task, and there's even a task manager. And they're going to show up in the UI. So that's going to be another video though, and maybe coming in a few days or something. I haven't looked at the tasks yet at all, so I don't know how long it'll take. Anyways, I hope this was somehow helpful for you to connect multiple triggers. And yeah, gonna see you in the next one. Bye.